Trae Young has finally and officially been traded from the Atlanta Hawks. It has been a good tenure, some would say, that he spent in Atlanta, but now he is on his way to the Washington Wizards per his request. That was the team that he had at the top of his list. That was the first team that entered into the trade fold for Trae Young, and now he is officially in Washington. And guess who he was traded for? CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. We will get into whether this trade makes sense, whether it was too little, whether it's the right scenario for Trae Young. Also, what does this mean for the Atlanta Hawks? Because now they have a lot of financial flexibility and they might be primed to make another move. And what does this mean for Washington? Are they ready to compete? Do they have a new rebuild? Do they have a direction? Fellas, let's go ahead and get into it.
I think first and foremost, my initial reactions. Well, a few people asked me about how a return for someone who averages 25 and 10 for his career can be so poor. And I think the Trae Young trade speaks more to the evolution of the game than Trae himself. I think we're at a point now where one-way guards have never had less trade value around the league. In particular, scorers who undersized guards who can't defend. Like, we're living in a world where Luka and Trae were traded for a combined 1 first-round pick, and Bane and Bridges were traded for a combined 10 first-round picks. So I think we see it all around the league. Utah couldn't get anything decent for Jordan Clarkson. The Nets didn't want to pay Cam Thomas. Miami can't trade Tyler Hero. I mean, McCollum now has been traded 5 times. Rob Dillingham's another example in Minnesota. Portland wanted to get off Anthony Simons, and Jordan Poole's another one. Like, there's this space where guys are just not valued around the league anymore, and I think Trae has fallen into that. The league shifted with size. I think we all agree we need position. We need positional size and length and athleticism at every position now to be successful. And even the Hawks are sort of banking on it now with Jalen Johnson, who, relatively speaking, has actually achieved nothing in the league, but they're still banking on what he can potentially do. So to me, it was a poor return for a guy who averages 25 and 10. If you round up a little bit chill, only he and Oscar Robertson are the only guys in league history to average 25 and 10.
Not just this season, by the way. In the 7 years he played in Atlanta, that's for his career. He averaged 25 and 10. And he got traded for a bucket of extra crispy and a 6-pack. Let's call it what it is. That's exactly what happened. But I think it was amicable. I think that the split was legit between the two. It says a lot about how they really felt about Trae for them to take that, as opposed to how Brooklyn felt about Mikal Bridges, where they're not just going to hand him over to the Knicks and just allow the Knicks to just be great, right? They're not just going to hand over they're not just going to hand over players to just allow these other organizations to be great. But for the Atlanta Hawks to just hand over Trae Young for, number one, an aging CJ McCollum, and Corey Kispert, who, as a young player, I think he's formidable. I don't think he's bad. I think he's formidable. But to not get any picks out of this for Trae Young, essentially what you're saying is that you don't think Trae Young is as good as any of any first rounder in the next 5 years. To not get 1 first round pick, you don't think Trae Young is going to be as good as you think any of these guys can be better than Trae Young, which is amazing to me. And I think he's going to work in Washington. And just so you know, Swiper, I don't think this is a short-term thing. I think that this is a mortgage. I don't think this is a rental. I think that they're going to hang on to Trae. They want to see how this thing works with him and Alex Sarr. They want to see how this thing works with him and Trey Johnson, who's one of the best catch and shoot rookies that I've ever seen. I think they want to see how this thing works with this guy. And I think this is a good trade. I think this is a good trade for Washington. Can't hear you, Ron.
Swiper, I know you're in the area. I know you had intel. I don't know if you want to speak into that or anything, but what's the vibe around the city and how do you feel about this whole thing?
Well, I mean, Atlanta's loyal to Trae. I remember when Trae got drafted here, I was sitting in the stands with my dog, Steve, who actually, he works at one of the churches I'm very connected with out here. And I remember we were sitting in the stands, Penn, and this was like the rookie year, and Luka had come to town. And so Trey and Luka were playing, and he was just like super defensive. Like, man, Trey's better than Luka. You know, look at this and that. Like, they're both playmakers, scoring, boom, boom, boom. And so obviously, Atlanta has always been very, you know, if you've been in baseball, like if you are around Atlanta, Gary Sheffield, you probably remember who that is, Chill, with the, you know, played for the Braves back in the day. If you do things in Atlanta, you know, Dion, you know, Jamal Anderson with the Falcons, they love their athletes out here. But I do think, though, that Atlanta fans are higher on Trey than I told you. The consensus has been coaches, GMs. Trey is very overrated amongst fan bases based on what he actually does and how he contributes to a team, elevating elite offenses. I will say that I do think that the next move for Atlanta is going to turn its attention to the original destination they're trying to get him to. And we shared a little bit that they tried to get Trae Young in particular with Dallas, but then Dallas, like I said, did not want to take on Trae Young at all in his contract. They just didn't want the player, and so they made a move to make another move, I think, in which they're going to try to take their expirings and Zachary Richichet, maybe that Pelicans first round pick, and then move to see if they can get an actual superstar in the building next to Jalen Johnson going forward, which is very possible given his value that he currently has. I think Trae Young is just not. He just doesn't do. I think he's the, you know, Mars makes jokes about, or previous Mars, pre-Atlanta Buddhist mission walk Mars. You know, he would make jokes about PRA merchants. Trae Young is the definition of a PRA merchant. You know, he doesn't actually enhance what you're trying to do offensively, and he's just not an efficient scorer. And again, it's the locker room, not locker room with the teammate stuff per se, but it's his fit with the leadership within Atlanta, him with the coaches, all that stuff. So, you know, I just think it just had to happen. It was just time. This is not obviously what a lot of us were thinking a year ago that Trey would be going for, but I told y'all going into the season, you know, they didn't sign him for a reason, and this is not a happy go situation. This is not even a wait and see. Hey, hope it does well, Trey. They were basically out on Trey by the summer, and they wanted to move on from him by the summer, but they just couldn't find a trade partner. And it just got to the point now where the deadline is literally right around the corner. Hey, you know, what can we get for Trey? Let's just get back to some expirings. Corey Kispert's actually a good player that I think can be a nice contributing player to a good team going forward. Now you got Corey Kispert off the bench. And then think about it too, Damian, Mars, Penn, Chill, Ron. The next step of this is they now have Kristaps Porzingis, Zachary Richichet, Dyson Daniels, Corey Kispert, Krisic coming off the bench, Nikhil. They have a host of, if we want to make a move, we have available options, and we have enough players on the roster that when we do trade for a superstar, we still have bench players and role players on this team that can contribute at a high level. Muhammad Gouye, obviously one of Mars' favorite players. Onyeka Okongwu, who is very loved in Atlanta as well. They have a pathway to be able to acquire and still be a very competitive team. So they put themselves in a good position, I would say.
Luke Kennard.
Yeah, Luke Kennard's another one.
What I'm trying to make sense of is what's this whole I hear so often now, like Trae Young sucks. That's what it sounds like, Ron. Like Trae Young sucks. And what's going on?
Why do y'all? Why do you
struggle?
struggle? Let me ask you a basketball question though, Chill and Rod. Why is it so hard for you all to conceptualize? Remember, there was a large stretch of the year when we were talking. Trey was shooting sub 40% as a scorer. The kind of shots he takes, he's a great passer. But on the other end, Trey is a horrifically bad defender. He breaks your scheme integrity on every single possession you're in. Plus, Chill, the coaching issues they had with him, plus the other stuff with management. I guess for you, he's not an elite scorer. He's a very good passer, but he's not generating elite offense. And then he's a very bad defender. And also, this seems to be an organizational misfit in some way. So why is it so difficult, I think, to wrap your head around why his value would be so low?
The reason why I'm having a difficult time with this is because outside of the efficiency of Trae Young, we've had players outside of the efficiency of Trae Young. Yes, Mars. We're also talking about defense too. We're not just talking about his ability to score the basketball. We're talking about defense, which also goes into efficiency. But outside of the efficiency of Trae Young, the other stuff like him being a coach killer and him being a problem in the locker room, we've actually dealt with guys like that in the past. But that goes away because of winning. And teams have a tendency to ignore that sort of stuff. Now with Trey, because his team hasn't won enough, it's less tolerable. But I don't think it goes. I don't think that it goes. And I don't think it goes hand in hand with him not being a damn good distributor. One of the best playmakers in the game.
We said
one
that,
of the best
though.
scoring.
Give him
Can't
that's a really good
keep
thing. I'm
doing
saying
that,
everything
though.
else though outside of that.
You have to look at the full
That's what I'm
picture.
asking. Like, if
I am looking at the full picture. And
No, you're not.
Sure, I am. Here's why I'm looking.
And
at
you
the full
finna get in here and hate, and this is about to get so nasty.
I'm
We
not
all
hating.
know Trey got undervalued. We all know that. We
By
all know
who?
Trey is worth more. Trey
by
is
to
worth
who?
more than CJ
They just
McCollum
handed
and
him
Corey
over.
Kispert.
They just handed him
we-
over.
Well,
we
to
all
be
know
fair, you're only worth what people are willing to pay.
Exactly.
Isn't that the
Exactly.
saying? So you can say you would have paid more, but if this is all people are willing to pay, isn't that what you're worth?
Right now.
Well,
It's
that's
situational,
that's
though.
what
It's
Washington was
situational.
willing
Ron,
to
I'll
pay.
tell you right now, I'll pay
could've more in the
$12.50
offseason.
for
Well,
a
if Washington is the
self-made
only
suit
team
before I will a
bidding-
Brooks Brothers suit.
Okay,
Any day of the
here's
week.
thing.
I don't
Washington
think
Washington
is the only
paid
team that
what
did
they
it.
paid because there is a guy in the front office who is currently their vice president of player operations who drafted Trae Young, and that is Travis Schlenk. And he is a guy who has believed in Trae Young all the way through, to the point where he was willing to trade Luka away from him, to the point where he's the guy who drafted him, built a team around him. And this has established a bit of a floor around the NBA circles for what Trae Young is worth. And that's why Washington always made sense, because there
Yeah.
was somebody in the front office. You just need one person to believe in you.
Mhm.
My question to you is, if he's not there, what's the actual trade value for Trae Young? Because right now you got a very serviceable player in Corey Kispert.
That's not fair.
Y'all can hate on it all you want. He has a $14 million contract, which falls down to $13 million and $13 million. So you got 3 years
It's a
of
good
a
value.
38% three-point shooter, which is more than I can say for what Trae Young is. He is a valuable commodity around the NBA circles. Okay. Corey Kispert has positive trade value. Positive. Based on contract. You may say, well, Trae Young's a better player than Corey Kispert. Doesn't matter.
Sure.
Doesn't matter. And so 2 years from now, the value of CJ McCollum as a valuable, if he takes a significant pay cut on his next deal, plus Corey Kispert, will probably be worth around what Trae Young is worth. So that's the first thing. Second, Chill, the reason I say you're not looking at the full picture is here is Atlanta's defensive rating since Trae Young has been drafted. Are you ready for this?
I'm listening.
27th in the NBA. 27th in the NBA. I'm going year by year. Okay.
Sure.
27th, 21st. Go next year, we got 2021, 2022, they were 26th. Go one more year up. I'm going to save you some time. They've never been a good defense. 22nd.
They ever had a top 5 offense since Trey's been there?
21, 2020, 21, 22. Those would be the years back when Trey was.
What was the highest
leading.
they finished been, if you can see it?
Y'all don't think this is unfair?
The reason I'm saying this,
Well, I want to see where he's going. I want to see where he's
defensively,
going.
Yeah, I
the
wanna see
highest
it.
they have finished with Trae Young was last year. They were 19th.
Defense.
19th. They have never been a top half defense with this dude. To swipe his point, this is a single player who has had multiple roster builds around him. They have always known he's a weak defender, so they've always tried to put positive
They were the
defenders
number
around
2
him.
defense and number 2 offense in 22. Swap.
22. Mm-hmm.
Haters.
That was the year
But
after they
it-
went. That was the year after.
not a
they
Yeah,
hater.
went.
sorry, Pemba.
Context
Swap
question. I
on.
didn't know.
This year, and this year that he has not played, they are 16th in defensive rating. I am seeing a correlation between Trae Young playing basketball games and your defensive rating. And it's not to say that they have great defenders this year either. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis is their best defender. He's been in and out of the lineup. Jalen Johnson is nothing to write home about. Zachary Reese sucks. Luke Kennard is not a good defender. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has not been himself, but they have built a team that I think right now is better without Trae. And that's not to say that Trae's not going to be great in Washington. He's going to be awesome in Washington. And a lot of people like Ron are going to be like, see, I told you Trae is amazing.
And that's a fact.
He's gonna be great. They have made a good trade for themselves. I think that Washington is going to get the most out of Trae because they have the roster.
You know what the best part about this
to
too
compliment
is?
him.
Alex Sarr didn't want to go to the Hawks, but you're going to play with Trey Young anyway.
There you go. But that's not why he didn't want to go to the Hawks.
Yeah,
He wanted to play in because he wanted
Is it
to,
good for
you know,
Washington, though?
play the 5.
It's fine for Washington as long as you don't over leverage yourself. And I mean, they're going to turn the keys to him. This deal allows Trae Young to still be the franchise player of a team.
Yeah, but for everything you just said, is that not a
answer
bad
this
idea?
question? What other team could he have been traded for and still maintain his franchise tag, other than Brooklyn or Washington? And even Brooklyn, I think you're fighting Michael Porter Jr. for that.
No, but
Trey
even
and
if
MPJ are close. So
I would have loved to see that actually.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that
Trey and MPJ are close. So
Yeah,
like,
that
I
would've been
don't
fun to
think
watch.
Bro, draft
for all
Will
the
was
reasons-
labeled the franchise guy. I don't think they
for all
would
the
have cared. They would have been.
for all the reasons Swiper and Penn said, though, why would it be in Washington's best interest to then acquire Trae Young?
Low
Why
risk.
wouldn't it, or why would it be?
Now, why would it be?
Because
Why
he
would it be?
He organizes offense better than anyone on that team. He will make guys look way better. He will make Alex Sarr look better. He will make
Like a point guard?
Yes, like a point guard. He can
Yeah, like a
he
league
organize-
guard.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool,
But
chill.
Him
He
and
can
Sarr gonna be
organize
cold
offense.
together,
No,
chill.
no one is up here saying he's a G League scrub. I'm not saying he's supposed to go
Actually-
to China.
actually, what I'm
He
hearing-
is in the
keep going, Ken, I'm sorry.
96th
Keep going.
percentile. He is in the 96th to 97th percentile among.
99.
He
You
is
don't
in
even
the
know what he's
90
gonna say.
I know what he's gonna say. 99.
he is in, because there's only one thing I can say that he's 96th percentile in. That's why you knew where I was going.
What is it?
Because you know I
Mars,
wasn't
would
gonna
it
say
would
he's
it,
a
would
90
it surprise you,
knew,
Mars?
you knew I wasn't going to say he's a 96th percentile shooter. You knew I wasn't going to say he's a 96th percentile competitor. You knew I wasn't going to say he's a 96th percentile defender. So you know where I'm going with this. He's a 96th to 98th percentile organizer of offense, which is to say,
Yeah.
he can run pick and roll. He can make guys look much better than they really are. And if you put the ball in his hands, great, cool.
Yeah.
If he stays healthy. But he's an undersized guard. So look, I think he's going to make guys look better. I think he can probably help Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr look a lot better. Keyshawn George, they have a roster that's right for him. And if he doesn't play a lot this year, they probably added another top 5 pick to it.
I
Exactly.
wonder to back to my point about him in terms of the efficiency. Mars, what if I told you that Damian Lillard last 4 years with the Portland Trailblazers, they didn't finish higher than 27th in defense? Is that totally attributed to Damian Lillard? Because
No,
that's what Penn is
he-
selling
he's-
us right
I mean,
now.
but we know Dame was also one of the worst defenders in the league at the
We
time.
do,
he
just
was.
like we know
that.
we know Trey is one of the worst defenders in the league, if not the worst defender in the league. But the separator is that Damian Lillard is a bit more efficient on offense
Dame's
as
a
a
better
bucket
offensive
getter,
player than
as
Trey.
a shooter, right? As a shooter, as a bucket getter. So I think
Mhm.
that I think that people look at him a little bit differently. So when Penn brings up how bad this Atlanta team is with Trey on defense, I think it's unfair because I look at the same thing going on in Portland not only the last 4 years, I think half of his career, they've had a bottom 10 finish in defense, but that's not totally attributed to Damian Lillard.
But in 2014,
Just like-
2015, Portland was the 10th ranked defense.
Yes, and the last 4 years
but
when
to-
Damian
but
Lillard was having his best seasons, by the way, they were at the bottom of the league defensively.
Well, that's because they
Bottom.
didn't have any more bigs.
Yeah,
So
because
too,
we had
chill.
Anthony Simons and CJ McCollum, who are
Yeah,
completely
well,
Yeah,
well, the current Atlanta Hawks are starting a bunch of defenders who have.
well, respect.
Also,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Joe,
they may have
eighth-ranked
Scottie
defense.
Pippen, but that doesn't change.
They
the
also
fact
No,
have
that
but
an
they-
eighth ranked
Chill's
defense
point is,
show
Chill's point is,
in,
why do we go
2017,
so
2018.
far? Why do we go so far with the Trey Young defensive stuff when there's clearly other examples in the league for superstars or stars needing defensive insulation? Like, why isn't it such a big
There's
deal
levels to this.
when we
Damian.
talk about?
Some
Yeah, I know, I
defenders are so
understand that.
bad that you
Luka
can't
is
insulate
bad.
them.
I understand that. I understand that.
Trey is
but
worse.
But why don't we go as far with other guys? Like Luka needs the same level of insulation. Tyrese
No, he
Maxey
doesn't.
needs the same level of insulation.
No, he
Jalen
doesn't.
Brunson,
'Cause he's
Darius
big. No, they
Garland,
don't.
Donovan Mitchell, all these guys.
Jalen Brunson probably does, but Luka and Maxey don't.
It's the panel. Religion get built on cam. With a check, throw smoke, and the host go ham. You ain't never seen hoops out here, did raw. Every take got weight, every night we drop. This that barbershop. Courtside, worldwide tone. Welcome to the only show that really feel like numbers jumping like the score.